You think I could just like borrow that for 1 second? I just want
Mike, come on!
This scene from The Bear Season 2, Episode 6, titled Fishes, is one of the most suspenseful things I've seen on TV in a long time.
Throw another fork at me, you're gonna get fucking rocked!
But what makes it so intense? Is it the fact that the emotional stakes have been set to simmer 40 minutes ago,
Carmel, you handle Mom?
Yeah, I'll handle it.
have never had a chance to cool, and are now coming to a head in one final scene? Is it the fact that this is the first scene where the cacophony of music and chaotic noise from the family kitchen has really quieted down, leading to an eerie silence?
I love you. Okay?
I love you too, Shug.
Is it the electric performances from the entire cast, including especially Jamie Lee Curtis, whose character has been building in intensity this entire time and seems like they might explode at any moment? Those are all definitely key ingredients, but I think the thing that really pulls this scene together and makes it so emotionally intense and almost harrowing to watch is the way those ingredients are assembled. The person responsible for assembling these ingredients and serving them to us, searching through sometimes hours of footage to find exactly the right shot for each moment, was Joanna Noggle, one of the editors of The Bear.
There's so many different layers of like, who is feeling comfortable in this situation, who is feeling stressed, who's everyone most focused on.
And she expertly draws the viewer into the emotional intensity of the scene by prioritizing a specific kind of shot.
I think by watching people react to what is going on, that's actually how you're able to build the tension in a scene. And I think that's actually how you're able to connect where everyone's headspace is. And as much as possible, I was just trying to clock, Sugar watching Donna, Donna watching Michael, Cicero watching Carmi, watching Michael, like just looking for all the moments of people clocking each other and make sure that you understood the shared history and how we got to this point of utter chaos and misery for everyone.
These shots where we're not seeing the character who's speaking or performing the primary action, but instead the faces of the characters reacting, make up almost half the running time of this nearly 14-minute scene. To really underscore just how much narrative work these kinds of shots are doing, consider the fact that Carmi, who's practically the show's main character, doesn't say a word during this entire scene. And yet we get an entire emotional arc for his character just through the reaction shots we see. To craft a scene like this, which is made up of 258 edits, Joanna has to meticulously comb through hours of footage to find the perfect expression in a performance that conveys what the character should be feeling in that moment. But each choice also has to fit within the flow and pace of the scene and make sense within the character's arc within the larger story. And finding the right placement and length of a shot can sometimes come down to just a fraction of a second.
Because this is our father's house, right? Rich, Lee, my father's house.
We have liftoff.
The award for all this effort in this scene is an emotional pressure cooker. We're not just seeing mounting intensity, we're seeing and feeling all the emotions around the entire table. The dread, awkward embarrassment, anger, fear, and sadness about what is playing out in front of them. And to edit like this, Joanna has to intimately understand the story and its characters.
Is this whole family this way, that like if they don't have a certain amount of chaos, like they literally will like disappear within themselves, and that's why nobody can help themselves at dinner when it escalates to the way it does?
Character arc, emotional subtext, and backstory are usually things that come up when we're talking about writing, acting, and directing. But when I talk to editors who are at the top of their game, I often notice just how frequently the conversation veers from the technical into the realm of story, character, and emotion. Stylistically, The Bear uses editing to its fullest potential. There are incredible high-intensity, chaotic scenes in the kitchens, beautiful montages, and many scenes where they understand that the perfect edit is none at all. But as cool as all this editing is,
it's not style for the sake of itself. It's style that is serving a purpose, either, pushing the story ahead or setting up something thematically.
Adam Epstein, another of The Bear's editors, stressed how, as flashy as The Bear's editing gets sometimes, it's always grounded in character and story.
It's less about like, okay, now we're going to get crazy, and more about let's try, as directly as possible to get something into the interiority of what's going on in Carmen, what's going on in Sydney's head, how Richie is feeling right now.
I want to know, how exactly do you do this? How does something like shot selection and timing inform a character's arc? Let's look at how Joanna and Adam used editing to help construct Richie's character arc throughout season 2, something they already started setting up in the edit in season 1.
The first time I think we really try to create that empathy for him is in the second episode, where there's that really long phone call scene. He's sitting with Sydney in the car after being such a jerk to her, and then all of a sudden he gets a phone call, and we just stay on that angle for a really long time, and we just hold on his performance. And there's so many places where we could have cut, and instead Chris and Josh and Joanna were like, we should just hang on him this entire time, and seeing him try to be a father. And I think that was like the first time starting to feel a little bit of empathy for him. And in season 2, like when he realizes he was wrong about the mold, we just hold on this really long shot of him just looking really dejected, covered in, stuff that fell on him, leaning into that and making those feel very long and extended.
As an editor, time is one of the most powerful tools you have at your disposal. Lingering on a piece of performance or an emotional beat really helps to highlight it for your audience as something that is important.
I think that just emphasizes, like, yes, he's prickly and yes, he's rude, but also, like, he has a lot of self-loathing. He has to live with himself also. Like, that also creates some kind of misery. So that's also how you can kind of put these breadcrumbs of, like, I think there's more to him. There's more to him. He just needs the right environment to flourish.
If you changed nothing else about the show, kept all the dialogue the same, but removed all these shots that linger on Richie, we'd feel very different as an audience about him as a character. This gave Adam a foundation to work from when he was editing Forks, Richie's big episode from season 2.
I tried to really lean on the moments and kind of like the stolen looks in a lot of his close-ups, him kind of internalizing and taking things in.
To really sell Richie's transformation in Forks, one of the key ingredients was, again, reaction shots.
Even if it's like a 20-frame shot, but if that 20 frame says, like, look at me learning and really taking in what's happening and really internalizing it, the more of that, the better. Even if it goes quick, you're still getting moments that really feel like you see something landing in him.
But Adam also helped sell this transformation by expressing externally what Richie was feeling through the tone of each scene.
We're setting up a tone for something that's going to evolve over time. If Richie was kind of scared of something, what would that look like and what would that feel like?
For Adam, creating this tone started with working on the sound design of this scene, something the editors of The Bear did a lot of.
I'd say this is probably the show, at least I've done the most temp sound work on.
Yeah. Not even close for me as well. When I was building the open to that, it was more about the underlying kind of sonic bed that would give you this sense of unease that almost gave it like a bit of a dream logic.
Chef, are we done with the forks?
The right sound, I think, lets you get visually faster a lot of times because you're having two senses that are clocking something. It lets you kind of be a bit more free-flowing in kind of the experimentation.
A brief aside here, one of the things you'll notice if you pay close attention watching The Bear is that each restaurant or kitchen has its own unique tone and pace. This is something that's constructed through the cinematography, set design, sound design, and of course, editing.
When you're in the Beef in season 1, it's chaos and it's messy chaos. And then when you're in Empire, which is the high-end kitchen in episode 2 of season 1, it's intense, but it's almost, like fascistic to an extent. It's really just nailed down and everything is an assembly line and it's fear-based chaos.
But back to Forks. What's special about this episode is that the tone of the restaurant changes throughout the episode as Richie's perception of the restaurant changes. So while tonally we start here and we eventually get to here, by the end of the episode we end up here.
Did you move around a lot?
Yeah. Do you?
It's the same location, but to us and to Richie, it feels completely different. Adam also used careful editing to help motivate the transition between these different tones.
Right after he sees the teachers get comped the meal and the reaction they have, you see on his face just him really taking it in, and then the music sort of like it's a gentle rise, and then this crazy Dutch angle of the subway just like in slow-mo blasting by that then takes us out to outside. And I kind of saw that as like, this is sort of his mental portal kind of between the two worlds.
For Joanna, when it came to editing the season 2 episode Sunday, she used a different approach in the edit to put us inside Sydney's head.
We're starting to see her like piece together things for the new menu.
Here, it's an abstract montage that's expressing the character's internal landscape.
That was something that was really abstract when it was explained to me. I got an initial cut from this other editor, Naya Amani, who did an amazing job pulling out all these selects, and then I kind of messed around with a bunch of different music, figured out how to condense it, so it felt like we were actually going into Sydney's brain and kind of seeing those synapses fire as she's connecting, you know, seeing snow falling on the river to then seeing Parmesan falling on pasta, finding match cuts between swatches of colors with windows to then square ravioli that all kind of had similar shapes, and then also putting in photos of like Io actually as a kid, you know, as Sydney, you know, thinking about her past. We put in a shot of one of the dishes she made in season 1, trying to visualize what creative inspiration looks like with match cuts and music and find different connections between the footage that made it feel abstract but also relatable, and you could follow that thread as it's coming to life in her head. The script for that episode, because they shot it a little bit more like a documentary, they didn't get exactly scripted shots. We were also kind of working with what was captured, and we had a ton of B-roll Chicago footage, construction footage, and then on top of that, you know, our amazing post team was also pulling like, oh, can we see, you know, architecture plans for the corncob towers like in downtown Chicago? And they were like, yep, here's 8 options. And I was like, this is incredible, this one matches the angle perfectly.
The first time I saw what Joanna put together, I was really blown away. She's selling herself short, I think, a little bit. You know, obviously you need the idea and you need the story, but that thing was made in her edit, in my opinion.
This montage itself is beautiful, but it's also a beautiful example of how the show's creators are thinking about editing as a storytelling device. In this episode, the audience connecting with Sydney's feeling of inspiration is a critical story beat, but instead of trying to communicate that through dialogue or exposition, the episode's director and writer trusted the editors to be able to communicate that through the editing.
And one of the reasons I think like I've been very lucky to work on this show is the freedom to experiment and to try interesting things and to take what might be a seed of an idea and really kind of run with it.
I don't want to rag on the editors of other movies and shows. Editing is an incredibly difficult profession. Bad editing often isn't even the fault of the editors themselves. When I watch a lot of shows and movies, though, it really feels like the editing is often an afterthought. It's treated mostly as a way of just assembling what was shot and what was in the script. This is a big part of editing, but it misses editing's full potential. Neglecting editing is like putting all your attention into selecting the perfect ingredients and making sure they're perfectly cooked, and then just throwing them on a plate without a care for how they're presented. And good editing requires quality ingredients to be there. The performances, the writing, and the cinematography all have to be doing their job in order for good editing to take place. This freedom that the Bears editors had really helped establish editing as part of the language of the show. And when the audience gets used to the editing as a way of expressing the character's internal space, you have more freedom to do things in the edit that otherwise might feel kind of jarring. For example, when Carmy ends up locked in the freezer in season 2, Joanna was able to start creating a montage of shots from other episodes that express what Carmy is feeling and imagining in that moment. And it doesn't feel like a flashback. Instead, it feels seamless because the show has time and time again used insert shots in this kind of expressionistic way. And when you trust your editors in this way and give them this kind of freedom, and those editors really understand the story and character motivations, there's potential for the script to be reshaped in a way that really benefits the story.
In season 1, episode 2, they're talking about the health inspector potentially coming.
She's not nice. She's not your friend.
And Tina and Ibrahim are outside talking to each other.
Look around. This ain't normal.
And then Carmy and Sid are talking about what needs to happen.
So we could just have somebody go and pick it up.
All these are scripted as like, here's a scene, here's a scene, here's a scene. They're not scripted as far as cross-cutting. You know, this is more something that kind of, I think Joanna really did such a great job of having a track that is playing kind of throughout, and yet you're dipping back into these conversations, but it doesn't feel as manic as like, you know, a full cross-cutting thing. And it doesn't feel as montagey as a full montagey, but it's definitely not just, you know, divided scene work.
Yeah, we did that again in episode 208 also. There was a scene where Carmy and Fac are in the fridge and they're talking about Claire and like they're like, what is a girlfriend? And that was filmed as a one take, but it was kind of a long scene and it actually felt like an instance where the one take probably wasn't going to work. So that was something that Megan and I, who edited the episode with me, talked about what else we could like interweave, and we almost like braided together 3 or 4 scenes, so we weren't only in this one take, we were kind of coming back to it as like the tent poles, but we had this one beautiful Decemberist song underneath it, and then it was like a little bit of Fac and Carmi in the fridge, then we go to Tina and Richie, then we're back to Fac and Carmi, then we're with Richie and Sydney, and it was just a way to kind of be in multiple places at once, keep the pace going, but also link them all at the same time too.
And that type of thing's a great example of, you know, when people talk about like editing being the kind of the final rewrite, it's not scripted, like all the words that are said might be there, but the order and the way that like the scenes are kind of weaving in and out of each other, that's not on the page. So that's something that, you know, you got to kind of experiment and you figure it out and you find how do you get like the truest version of what's written, but in a way that allows the tools of filmmaking to elevate it to what its most ideal form could be.
Editing, when used to its full potential, isn't just a means by which the story is assembled or the best performances are chosen. It is itself a big part of the language of filmic storytelling. The Bear showcases what's possible when everyone from the writers to the directors to the editors themselves really understand the motivation and emotions behind the story and its characters, and how much editing can bring those characters and their experiences to life. One of the best examples I've seen recently in a movie of innovative editing that draws you into the story is Korean director Park Chan-wook's decision to leave. This is an example of a director who had editing in mind from the beginning and started meticulously planning it before they even started shooting, as you can see in these detailed storyboards for the film. The film's edit matches almost exactly to what's in this book. Decision to Leave, if you want to watch it, is available right now on Mubi, my sponsor for this video. If you're like me, you've had these moments where you're flipping endlessly from streaming service to streaming service, looking for something to watch, and it all just starts to look the same. Mubi really breaks up that monotony with its focus on excellent curation. Here you'll find classics, indie films, festival favorites, and I think the best selection of international cinema that you can get online in the US. You can watch Decision to Leave and explore the rest of the library for free right now when you sign up for my extended 30-day free trial by going to mubi.com/ThomasFlight. Mubi is available all around the world, so sign up and discover some amazing cinema by going to mubi.com/ThomasFlight or by clicking on the link on the screen. Thanks again to Mubi for sponsoring this video.